room. Ms. Clark is with us, and welcome all guests. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm Monroe LaBouisse, the chair of the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commissions, and welcome to our September monthly meeting. A quick announcement for anyone on Zoom who would like translation services from English to Spanish. It is available. We do have 2 interpreters who will be with us during the meeting. If you have any questions about that, feel free to raise your hand and let us know. All right. Wesley is our Vice Chair of Administration. Will you please take roll call?
My pleasure. Sorry, I had to grab my parfait. Chair LaBouisse?
Present.
I'm present. I'm Wesley Liu. Commissioner Amaya Nori.
On his way.
On his way. Vice Chair Huber Levy.
I'm here participating by video.
Okay. Commissioner Agrawal.
Here.
Commissioner Bocanegra. Not here yet. Commissioner Ginevra.
Present.
Commissioner Sathvik Nori.
Here.
Commissioner Rasmussen.
Here.
Commissioner Singh.
Here's Commissioner Bocanegra.
Commissioner Singh.
She's not
No. Okay. Commissioner Swope.
here.
And Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
And Commissioner Bocanegra just
Here.
Sorry. All right, we have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Liu. Now our first item on the agenda is to.
Are you a musical person?
Hi, Sarah. If you mute yourself, okay, great. Thanks. First item on our agenda is to look at the minutes from the August meeting. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
No.
Yeah, I had something I wanted to add on the minutes too.
Do you
I
want to make a motion to do something else?
Yeah.
Commissioner Swope.
I move we defer them until next month.
A second.
Second, okay. Commissioner Swope, do you want to say anything else about or can we defer that until after the meeting?
I've redone them so they're ready to send out with the next packet. But I really would appreciate an opportunity to help you make sure that they're ready for approval at the month when they're supposed to be approved.
You know, it's very difficult because it's me and Amaya working together. So some months it's me, some months it's Amaya. But yes, Susan, we do value your expertise in minute writing, and it's very important. So we'll make sure to follow.
And there are improvements.
Okay, great. Any further discussion before we vote on the motion to defer the minutes to next month?
The one thing I just like to point out that what caught my attention was there was a mention for Miss Clark's report to be attached, and it wasn't attached. So I don't know if we never received that or what was with that, but that's what I saw that made me mention it.
Okay, why don't we address that after the meeting and to be approved at the next meeting?
Thank you.
Okay, great. All in favor of deferring the approval of August minutes until our next meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. The motion passes. The approval of the August minutes will be deferred until our October meeting. Our agenda tonight covers a few things, including some new candidates for commissioners. We have an inspection report to review, and then a few other administrative items towards the end, in addition to our normal updates from system partners. So I would like to get a motion to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion, any changes to the agenda, any edits, commissioners? Looks good. All right, all in favor of approving the agenda as distributed? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Great, the agenda is approved. Our next item is a recognition that Commissioner Rasmussen is going to lead.
So I'm gonna stand over here. Unfortunately, we don't have the podium in the room, but I'm gonna stand right over here. So last year, the commission formed a subcommittee to develop an awards program. And we wanted to recognize individuals who do exceptional work with justice system involved youth and families. And we wanted to honor individuals who consistently go above and beyond to meet the needs of our youth, who are creative and think outside the box to solve problems, individuals whose actions and deeds consistently demonstrate an unwavering commitment to improving the lives of children, and people whose time, talents, and skills have made a profound difference in our community. And I'm thrilled tonight to be presenting the San Mateo County Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commission's first ever Making a Difference Award. And the award reads, "Making a Difference," for making a profound difference in the lives of thousands of children and families in San Mateo County. And I am, it's my absolute privilege to award this to Chatty Galera.
Oh, picture, yeah. Yes. Once you head down, head down.
You could have sent me an email, a phone call, a text.
Oh, no. Hey, Paul, you want to go down? You want to go down?
Yeah, you did so well. I appreciate it. Okay, I'm give you your box.
Thank you for your years of service.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Ms. Galera will be retiring after 23 years of service.
23.
Yeah, we're gonna miss you. Thank you. Oh my God. All right. Thank you.
All right, that's a great way to start a meeting. Congratulations, Ms. Galera. Moving on now to section 2 of our agenda is always an opportunity that we provide members of the public to make public comment on items that are not on the agenda. We will also have opportunities for public comment as we go on the other items. So if there are any members of the public that wanted to make public comment, bring anything to our attention, now is the time to do it.
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
No hands raised on Zoom and nothing, no one here. Okay, that's fine. We'll have other opportunities. I'll just take a minute to recognize a few members of an organization from East Palo Alto called Live in Peace, who we're very happy to see you have and to have you here. Welcome.
Welcome.
And also the executive director of CASA of San Mateo County. Welcome, Keith.
Oh.
All right. Moving on now, we will do the usual updates from our system partners. And first up, as usual, Judge Atizadi, welcome.
Thank you. It's always good to see everybody, and welcome to the new folks that are there. I really don't have anything to add this month. We're moving along as we do with our cases, and unless anyone has any questions, but I have nothing new to add.
Commissioner Wilson, you're always good for a question.
Actually, it was just a compliment. This weekend during our retreat, much comment was made at how thoughtful and beautiful your recent judgment was, what you said in court. I know you can't comment, but I'm telling you that I and many other people on the commission were present for your decision, and the quality of thinking and specificity, it was like a master lesson in judicial something. Yeah, in judicial, I learned a tremendous amount, and it was so reassuring to have you as our judge.
I can say thank you for the comment.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Wilson. If we don't have any other questions or comments, I'm only seeing hand clapping and other reactions on Zoom. Great. We'll move on to an update from the private defender group. Mr. Reyes.
Afternoon, everyone. Congratulations. As far as our numbers updates for the last 4 weeks, we assigned 18 cases. Out of those 18 cases, four of them contain 707B allegations. We handled 5 sealings, and our Miranda consultation hotline, we received 45 calls on this month. Those are the numbers, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
It seems like less activity than in recent months. Is that right?
As far as cases filed, it's half what we did the month before.
Yeah.
Well, actually, about 60% less.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is there any legislation that's currently pending that we should be paying attention to?
I should be paying attention to my legislation as an E4A. It's with the governor.
It's with the governor right now?
Yes.
And which one is that?
That's to deal with youth detention. So it provides that juvenile courts cannot just solely consider the youth county of residence when determining whether they detain or not. So essentially, sometimes if you have youth from out of the county picked up in a different county, and they usually are detained until the case is there has been an adjudication, and then they transfer to their home county for disposition. This particular bill, what it does is allows the judge or the juvenile court to treat those youth equally and give them equal consideration for release, as well as give specific authority to the court to release youth that are out of county regardless of their county residence.
Thank you so much for that. That's very important. Thank you.
So right now, the judge not has to, can you give me the little?
So right now, oftentimes, not every case,
Yeah.
but oftentimes what you see are not just, this is not just a San Mateo issue, that's just a statewide issue. If you have, let's say, for example, Santa Clara youth that is arrested in San Mateo County, and typically that youth would consider on the detention hearing could be considered for release, like on electronic monitoring or some other home release programs. Because they're out from out of county, they cannot be supervised because they're residents of another county. So they end up being in custody until their case is adjudicated, and then they transfer back to their home county, and then they'll be disposed in there, and then whatever is going to happen in the home county.
So what you're saying is our EMP program is not able to function outside of county of residence, San Mateo County.
Right, it's not so much functionality. My understanding the technology is there, but I think there's no, the different probation departments, they do not supervise other kids from different
They don't
counties.
have an MOU in place,
Yeah.
and this would basically encourage them to have an MOU in place.
Yeah, I mean, this one way would be to address it, but it's not the youth's fault. It's
No.
essentially,
Yeah.
The county of residence should not be a factor in determining. There should be there's a list of things that the court consider in the statute, and they should be weighed equally regardless of the county of residence.
Right, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Is the point of the bill to minimize how often they're being detained and incarcerated, or just to lessen the travel of the probation officers?
No, the bill is designed to kind of address an issue that we saw throughout the state regarding out-of-county youth when they're detained. For example, if you take one youth that is from San Mateo County,
And he gets arrested in Santa Clara.
or arrested, or let me give you two different examples to show you that, just to illustrate the difference. For example, if you have a youth from San Mateo County, arrested in San Mateo County, comes up for a detention hearing, that youth could be considered for electronic monitoring release, for example. That if there's an order to release them on electronic monitoring, then the probation department in our county can supervise that youth because he or she lives in our county. If you take the same exact youth, but now the only difference is that youth is from a different county, that youth would not be released because the probation department cannot monitor somebody from a different county. So they end up, for the most part, staying in custody until their case is resolved.
To answer your question, his motivation is to keep kids out of detention.
Right.
Yeah.
What's that bill number?
SB 448.
Does that mean that the jurisdiction over that youth could be transferred to the county residents, or how does that work?
So yes, jurisdiction always gonna, once the adjudication happens and the case transferred to home county. So this bill only addresses pre-adjudication. So once adjudication happened, if the youth is from Santa Clara or San Francisco, they gotta go back to their home county. So that does not change. The only thing changes the consideration whether to keep the youth in custody until their case is adjudicated versus having to be released, just like would be for a local kid, and while the case is making its way through the judicial system.
I'm not clear on how this bill changes it if our probation department, for example, cannot supervise a youth in Alameda.
Well, it could be ordered.
So they can, our probation would still be the person who was handling that youth. They would go home on EMT and we would pay for it and our probation would supervise them.
That could be one way of dealing with it, yes.
I can imagine, like, let's say, there's a kid from San Mateo County, arrested in Santa Clara, and, we're waiting for him to get released back to his home county. I can imagine San Mateo County already being full, like, those probation officers are already, like, kind of busy. Would the kids still have to stay in detention until opening is available for them?
That should not be the case as far as, for consideration for release. I'm not sure we encountered that issue where there's full capacity for release on the EMT. I'm not sure that's an issue, at least for our county, I'm not aware of. I mean, all of our kids who, in order to be released on electronic monitoring, for example, have been placed on electronic monitoring and released.
Yeah, and I mean, like, more on, like you said, a statewide, like, I don't just strictly leave for San Mateo County, like, would a kid have to wait until
So it's
officer is available kind of thing, or will they automatically get released?
Yeah, I mean, it gives the court discretion to release. It does not limit it, so they could be released on home supervision. So it really gives the court authority to kind of give that consideration instead of just, right now, we just detain the kids.
Right. Thank you, Ron. Appreciate the update and answering the questions. And this was a subject we were actually just talking about over the weekend at our commission retreat. At how there's a relatively high percentage of kids that are out of county who are in detention. It's because of the situation. So we appreciate your efforts in Sacramento as always. Moving on to section 3C of our agenda.
Point out, Kate has her hand up.
Oh,
and I
I'm
think
sorry.
Rebecca had her hand up earlier.
My apologies.
Apologies. We do have other requests for public comment. So Kate, if you want to come off mute and ask a question or make comment.
Hi, everybody. Is this a good moment to talk about another bill that I would encourage this group to consider supporting? Or is this not a good time? I'm happy to do it when it's the right time.
Depends. I guess it depends on the subject of it, but you're here, so why don't you go ahead? Yeah.
Okay. So just wanted to raise that another bill on Newsom's desk is AB 28. This is a bill that places an 11% excise tax on gun manufacturers, specifically to support programs that reduce gun violence and to provide safety and services for gun violence survivors. We know that gun violence is really serious in this area. Oh, he did. He passed it. Okay, thank you. Never mind. Sorry, I missed the news.
That was quick. That was quick.
Sorry, he signed it today. Is that what happened? Is that
Sounds like it. So.
Oh, you're reading the chat. We can't see the chat.
Yeah,
So-
yes, he signed it today. I'll put a link in the chat to the Mercury News article.
Thank you for the great news. I was not up on my news for today, so thank you. Sorry, I will.
All right. Is there any other public comment before we move on to an update from the probation department? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, we will. Hearing none is probably not the right thing to say there, right? Like,
That's
probably-
fine.
Okay, all right. Not hearing any public comment. Welcome to our probation department, and we'd love to hear any updates you have for the commission.
Hi, everyone. I'm reporting for the population at the YSC, which is Youth Services Center. Currently, we are at 18. We have 14 males. I'm sorry, 16 males and 2 females. And at our camp, we currently only have 1 youth left.
She must be lonesome.
Do we have 1 unit or 2 units right now?
2 units.
Do we have the racial breakdown of the kids?
Sure. So out of the 18, 15 are Hispanic, 1 is Native Hawaiian, 1 is African American, and 1 is mixed race. The girl at camp is Caucasian.
Do you have the numbers of youth that are on supervised probation in the community?
I report out.
Oh, you have that. Sorry. Yes. I have a question about Camp Kemp. I'm a CASA volunteer, and I had heard through some other CASA volunteers that there is a rumor or some discussion that maybe because of the very low population of Kemp, that it might be closed in the future. Hopefully that's just a rumor. I'm just wondering if you have any comment on that.
I don't have any comments for this group today. However, there are some talkings about what we are going to do with that facility. At this time, I'm just not able to speak on it because I'm not sure myself.
Right. And the discussions are because of the very low population, effectively? Yeah.
I mean, there's many factors.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions before we move on to an update from Ms. Clark?
Could I just ask that maybe probation give us a heads up when that decision is made, so we hear about it from probation? And thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Hey, hi everybody. So unfortunately I do not have the racial breakdown, but we have a total of 396 youth on probation. 239 of those are on our diversion court, and 157 are on supervision. From that, we have 3 total that are girls or CSEC. We have 9 that are within our unit for gang and DJJ re-entry. We currently have 3 that are receiving AB 12 services, so we still continue to have no youth in placement. The 3 are receiving 12 services, aftercare, 8 youth and FPP wraparounds, and then we still continue to have 1 in our store.
Sorry, the last one was 1 in SOAR?
Yeah, secure track.
Okay, secure track. If I'm remembering correctly, that number of youth that are in diversion and not supervised probation seems much higher than I've heard it in the past. I'm just wondering, like, was there a definition change there, or is it just there are more youth in
There's
diversion?
just more youth. I think our POs and the supervisors are working hard towards diverting more youth instead of having them on formal probation. We're trying to go diversion measures and utilizing other things instead of placing on probation.
There's a question in the chat. What was the number of youth on diversion?
Diversion.
On diversion, yeah.
The number of youth on diversion, there was a question from a member of the public, is 200, did you say 239?
Yes.
Yes, 239 on diversion. Commissioner Liu.
Yes, thank you. I just had a few questions. What is CSEC? You said there are 3 girls on that.
Between our girls program and CSEC. Okay. So it's not
child sexual exploitation.
Commercially sexual.
And how many gang affiliated youth were there?
And it's gang DJJ, so it's not just one, it's just, they're kind of categorized together, and I believe it was 9. But let me, yes.
Okay, any other questions from Ms. Clark? All right, thank you, Ms. Clark. All right, we're going to move on to section 4 of the agenda. We are going to talk now about membership on the commission. We have a few candidates for addition to the commission, and Commissioner Hubert Levy is online, and she's going to walk us through it.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Sorry I can't be there in person, but I have the honor and privilege of introducing 3 new candidates that our membership committee has interviewed and is going to recommend for appointment to the commission tonight. But just as a matter that probably should be dealt with before that is just recognizing the service of Commissioner Flores, who had been on the commission for a number of years and has been on a leave of absence and has welcomed the birth of her first child and is enjoying her family time. But she has let us know that she is going to be stepping down from the commission. So that leaves us with 3 open positions for the commission. So that allows us to introduce 3 candidates to you tonight. So just officially thanking Commissioner Flores for her service to the commission in the past and appreciating her role. I have 3 candidates to introduce to you tonight, and the candidates are, and their applications were in the agenda packet. So hopefully everyone had a chance to look at those. Our candidates are Tiffany Uhila Hautau, Steve Grebe, and Rushi Mankani. And I will introduce each of these potential commissioners to you in that order. And we will have motions for a vote on each separately. Tiffany Uhila Hautau is the daughter of Mama D. Uhila, who was a longtime commissioner a number of years ago on the JJDPC, and also was on the commission last year, but had to step away due to some health issues. So Tiffany, her daughter, as she has mentioned to us, has been voluntold by her mother to make sure she does not let anything slip in terms of opportunities to advocate for youth in the community. And we are delighted that Tiffany stepped up to take on that challenge. She is executive director of Anamatangi Polynesian Voices. She grew up in San Mateo County, lives in East Palo Alto, is committed to deepening the connections and resources allocated to the community of East Palo Alto and advocating for youth. She has a strong background in health education and is very committed to the cultural relevancy when supporting families and helping families connect with their own culture and benefit from building a strong family culture. She has founded the Parent Project, which I'm hoping that at some point she will tell us more about it when she joins the commission. As I mentioned, she's committed to advocating for youth and also raising awareness of alternative and restorative practices and cultural-based healing and restoration. She's prepared to work hard on behalf of the commission and is particularly interested in work that also aligns with her work in her community and supporting the youth in East Palo Alto, which is also very aligned with the work that we have at the JGTPC. The membership committee was very impressed with Tiffany's commitment to continuing her parents' remarkable legacy of service to their community, honoring hers and others' cultural identity and heritages, and finding ways to support youth in staying out of the juvenile justice system and thriving, very consistent with our mission statement. So the membership committee voted unanimously to recommend Tiffany to the JJDPC as a new commissioner. I could go on and on about Tiffany's volunteer activities in the community, but you would have had a chance to take a look at that, and I encourage you to take a look at that in her application. I would like to make a motion for the JJDPC to vote to approve the appointment of Tiffany Uhila Hautau to the commission as a commissioner.
And
we don't need a second for the vote.
Given that I was going to say, given that it comes from a committee, it does not require a second. Are there other commissioners that want to ask any questions or make any other comments about Tiffany's candidacy as a commissioner?
Make a comment. I've had the opportunity to work with Tiffany personally in the field, very close to her mother. Her mother has been a mentor and has taken me under the wing since day one. I've learned so much from this family and the work that they do and the work that Mama D has been doing for I believe the last 50 years in EPA. And I think that Tiffany would be a great addition, not only for all youth, but specifically for proper representation of one of the highest incarcerated cities in San Mateo County. So that's what I have to say about Tiffany.
Anyone else? Okay, let's have a vote on the candidacy of Tiffany Uhila Hautau. We are voting to recommend her to the court and to the Board of Supervisors to become a commissioner on the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commissions. A lot of words there, yeah. All those in favor, let's do a voice vote. I think we could do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, Tiffany is approved to be recommended to the court and the Board of Supervisors. Terrific. Commissioner Huber-Levy, who's our next candidate?
So our next candidate is Steve Grebe. And Steve is a fairly new resident of San Mateo County, arrived here 6 months ago. He recently retired from his position as general counsel to the Kansas Supreme Court. Yes, you heard that correctly. General counsel to the Kansas Supreme Court. His motivation to advocate for youth started many years ago after a career pivot. He went back to law school and became a CASA volunteer for 3 years while he attended law school. He also served as an administrator on the Citizen Review Board in Kansas, mentoring youth in the judicial system and ensuring they received the services due to them. Steve moved to San Mateo and hit the ground running and is immersed in his community, learning everything he can. He decided very early on and contacted the JJDPC, wanting to learn more about the work that we do. Has been in contact with a number of commissioners, has attended events, has attended court, has met all of us, participated in our offsite on Saturday, as did our other candidates. So bravo, that was wonderful. He's also attending the San Mateo County Civics 101 Academy to learn more about our county. It's a free 9-week program that meets every week to go through every area of San Mateo County and give an in-depth immersive experience to provide people with an idea of what the program services, finances, and initiatives are that are important in our county, and also provide input for the priorities for our county. I think it's a wonderful program, highly recommended to anyone else who's interested, and bravo, Steve, for getting involved in that. Apart from his interest in working with the JJDPC, he's also plunged into volunteer work in our county. He's a Project Read teacher at the San Mateo Library, coaching an 18-year-old who's applying to the police academy. So here's a man who puts his time and effort to the values that he espouses. Steve's exceptional legal background, proven commitment to advocating for youth, and a positive lifelong learner attitude is what really impressed our whole committee. We all wholeheartedly recommend Steve to the JJDPC Commission for a vote tonight to approve and support his appointment as a new commissioner. And so I move for a vote to support the appointment of Steve Grieve to the JJDPC, recommending Steve to the Board of Supervisors and the court for appointment. We don't need a second, just can go to a vote.
Right. Any
something.
any other commissioners have questions for Steve or comments? Steve, it's been a few months since we first had coffee. I've been looking forward to this day.
Yeah.
So glad to have you here. All those in favor of recommending Steve to the court and the Board of Supervisors to become commissioner, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations, Steve. All right, Commissioner Huber-Levy, take us home.
Okay, so our final of our 3 candidates is Rushi Mangtani, who was a young woman who first attended a JJDPC meeting early in the summer. She is currently a high school junior in Menlo, and she lives in Menlo Park. She became interested in the JJDPC because she has a passionate interest in understanding our county's engagement with juvenile justice, because she's generally interested in prison reform efforts on a national level and also wanted to understand it on a local level. She's done a lot of research into prisoner rights and the history of prison reform in the US. But when she attended our meeting, she also let us know that she was going to be away for a period of time because she had applied for and been granted or received a grant to travel to Norway to study the prison system there, and had an amazing experience there, and would love to share that with the commission at some point in time. And I hope we get a chance to hear Rushi on that, because it really sounds extremely interesting. She's a spokesperson on Congresswoman Anna Ishue's Student Advisory Board. She led a subgroup writing a policy proposal to increase HVAC systems in federal prisons. She's also working on a proposal to reduce sentencing for simple drug possession convictions and instead provide incentives for youth to, or actually more than youth, for people on these who've been convicted to instead submit to treatment and programs for addiction. She's active with various associations which are fascinating. The European Prison Education Association, which came out of her time in Norway. She's involved with the Wisconsin Books to Prisoners. She's was an ambassador for One Prosper International, which was leading teaching efforts for underprivileged girls in India, and has also worked with Safe Space Youth Action Board, a mental health nonprofit. So Rushi has an incredible amount of background in volunteering and activism for a very young age. We were very impressed with her skills in research and writing and her strong work ethic, her commitment to learning and advocating for prison reform and youth prisoner rights, and her experience also in working with and partnering with local schools and nonprofits to raise awareness with youth around criminal justice reform and provide a safe space for those with incarcerated family members. So the membership committee is very excited to recommend Rushi for appointment to the JJDPC, to recommend to the Board of Supervisors and to the court that they appoint Rushi to the JJDPC. And we're excited to benefit from her excitement and awareness of issues on a broader level, and her wanting to work on a local level to take these things actively forward. So we're ready for a vote with no second or any comments.
The motion is on the floor. Right, no second need. Does anyone else have questions or comments before we
I
vote?
just wonder, how do you have the bandwidth to do more?
I mean, I really feel it's very important, and I've stepped down from some other activities I've done to fully invest my time.
I'm envious you're being able to go and see what they're doing in Norway, because I've seen articles and videos on it. And when I was talking to one of our previous sheriffs about it, he said, but we've got really bad actors here. So, and I said, they're not any worse than anywhere else in the world. So you actually got to see for yourself. So I'd be interested to hear more on that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
All right, all commissioners in favor of recommending Ruchi to the court and Board of Supervisors to become the commissioners, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Congratulations. Commissioner Levy, was there anything else you wanted to wrap up on membership before we move on?
No, well, I just wanted to note that we are now, with the appointment of our three, well, once the appointment of our three new commissioners is finalized, we will be at 15. We will be at full capacity for the first time since I've joined the commission. I don't know when we were last at full capacity, and I think we have a really amazing group of people to work with. So there are good things ahead, good times ahead.
Great. Yeah, first time in my 4 years that we've been at full capacity, and it's a reflection of the great work of the membership committee and the membership chair, as well as, I think, the activity of the commission and the profile of the commission, that we're attracting such interesting people to join. So well done. All right. We will move on now then to section 5 of our agenda, which is on inspections. Commissioner Rasmussen, you want to give us an update on kind of overall on where we are in inspections?
Sure. So we're sort of winding down this inspection period. We're coming to an end. There's some loose ends we need to tie up at the juvenile hall and camp. They shouldn't take too much time. I'm anticipating that we should be ready to present the juvenile hall and camp inspection at the next meeting.
Great.
Is there anything you want to add on that? Paul's leading it.
I believe the only thing we had was just the interviews of the young girls. We couldn't interview during the time they all had COVID. And I think there's one young girl left, so I could probably send an email to set that up. Thank you. Yeah, that's about it. And we should be done by next month for sure.
Great. Fantastic. Good.
Yeah,
Right
and-
on schedule.
And I see that your report is attached. We'll be talking about that. And
Yep.
Commissioner Wilson, did you want to touch base and let us know briefly about where you're at with education?
Yeah, we are making progress. We met with Sarah Notch today from SMCOE. We're going to do one last meeting on Friday. There are some documents that I'd still love to get. We were not able to interview youth this year, which is, not good, because their voice is super important as the primary actors in their own lives. But generally, things feel like they're in good shape.
And are you expecting also in October to be able to present a draft?
Yes.
Great.
Yes. In fact, I would suggest that maybe I'll send around a draft well in advance and get comments.
That would be
So
great.
that we can just say, wow, that is a perfect piece of work, Melissa. Congratulations. Why not? We can dream.
But to add to everything that Melissa stated, the education team at the Corner Community Schools have been very gracious in facilitating our one visit to look into how things are going there. A few administrators have been really helpful throughout this process.
Yeah.
But Melissa and I definitely still have questions, and we would be happy to follow up with the appropriate person there.
Meaning Sarah, not who we met with today.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, is there a possibility that they're still gonna let you interview the children? Because that's kind of a key
It is the
here.
point, yeah, it is a big point of the inspection. So that's something I will ask for again.
Okay, thank you.
And I think, you know, like going forward, that needs to be clarified because while we ask out of politeness, we have an obligation. And yes, obligation to talk to youth as part of the inspection process.
Thank you. I think that's all for me, Monroe.
Okay, great. So our inspections this year are covering Juvenile Hall, Camp Kemp, Canyon Oaks, and the schools at in all those places. So I was the lead for the inspection of Canyon Oaks Youth Center, and Commissioner Swope and Hubert Levy were also on the inspection team. And we completed our inspection in August and finished the report in the past month. So that report draft at this point, hopefully a final draft, was in the agenda packet and distributed ahead of time. I won't go into all the detail there, but a few highlights. So first of all, Canyon Oaks is a facility specifically for youth with significant mental health issues. It has a large, very well trained and experienced staff of therapists, as well as residential counselors that have been with the facility for a long time. And there are currently 8 kids there, none of whom, though, were placed there by the court. It is also possible for youth to be placed at Canyon Oaks by the school district or and in collaboration with parents. So because none of the youth there currently, and actually none of the youth in the last 12 months, were placed there by the court, we were unable to interview those youth because that they do not fall under our jurisdiction. Nonetheless, the facility does, and there have certainly been youth placed there by the court in the past, and so because of that, as we have done yearly for as long as I've been on the commission, we did conduct an inspection. We visited Canyon Oaks. We interviewed the director and toured the facility and met some of the other staff that were there. So all in all, Canyon Oaks, as has been the case in the past, continues to be a very good facility for the treatment of youth with treatment and care of youth in the county. And the like I said, the experience and training of the staff is very good. The ratio of staff to kids is excellent. And in last year's inspection report, there were a few issues with the sort of physical facility and some of the equipment that were noted, and a recommendation that Canyon Oaks work with procurement at the county to try to get some of those things addressed. And we're happy to report that almost everything has been addressed. I think the one thing that was still out that was mentioned last year and that hadn't changed was washing machines and dryers that if they were industrial strength, it would make things easier. But they've also been able to compensate for that with a service an external service that they use. So the blacktop was new. The paint and fixtures on the outside of the building looked like they had been updated, facility looks like overall it's in great shape.
There's no longer a patch of dirt instead of grass or something else that has artificial turf on it.
There's some artificial turf, but also a basketball court that looks like it's been recently paved. Yeah.
Yeah, but that area looks much better than it has in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. So clear improvement, especially to the recreational facility outside. Yeah. So I think that kind of wraps up my overall comments on our visit, and there is more in the report that is in the agenda packet. Were there, Commissioner Swope, did you want to say anything else, or Commissioner Huber-Levy, did you want to add anything? Did I miss something?
No, I echo your comments, and I think for the 8 youth in residence, it's really remarkable level of care and services for those youth, and also decent food in their cafeteria, or their kitchen area. But it seems we can be very proud of our county for supporting these youth who are otherwise, I'm not sure where they would be and where they would go, and they're able to continue their education and get daily therapy and therapeutic interventions to encourage them to be able to reintegrate back into their school system or proceed on with further education. So I think we can feel very good about that.
Thanks. That reminds me, there's one other thing I was going to add, which is that I also attended the visit with Commissioner Wilson to talk with the teacher that's been there for a number of years now. Excellent teacher. So the educational side of the inspection will be a separate report, which I'll also work on, and next month will be ready. And I guess we'll probably attach that to the Canyon Oaks facilities report, but TBD on that last bit. Okay. Commissioner Masterson.
I had a couple questions about the inspection report. I live in Redwood City and I'm a neighborhood chairperson. So one of the things I'm responsible for there is like evacuation plans, fire drills, things like that for the neighborhood. The location of Canyon Oaks is in one of the highest fire danger areas in the county. And so I noticed on the inspection report that there wasn't really, the fire inspection wasn't listed. When talking about smoke alarms, it said they weren't viewed. Fire drills, there was no information, nothing about the evacuation plan. And I didn't see anything about the ventilation system for when it's really smoky outside. So those are, those questions related to fire and being its location. I was wondering if we might be able to get some answers to those specific points, just to ensure that we're covering the risk of wildfires and having the kids.
I think that's a good point. We should clean that up. I had thought about that as well, but I wanted to point out also that the fire department is right next door.
That's true.
There is literally a firehouse right next door, but these are good. This is a good question. Yeah, which should make it all the easier for them to have a plan.
Yeah, and they should have the report available, or you walk next door to get it. You know.
Like I've parked there the last time that I went there. Like they're always, it's an active fire department right there. But yeah, we should definitely just clean that up on the report. Good point.
Great question. And also kind of in a location that's hard to get in and out of, right?
Yeah.
Especially with construction going on there right now as well. Very good question. Any other, did you have more than one thing, or was that?
Yeah, that was it. It was all fire related.
Yeah, Commissioner Wilson.
Well, I continue to think it's very wrong-headed that county council will not let us interview children who reside in this facility and is saying no, only children who have been placed there by the court. Many children who have not been placed there by the court are still likely to enter the court system because they are vulnerable. It's a vulnerable population. And we know kids go back and forth between Canyon Oaks and Hillcrest. And two, what happens to any child is not only sort of our concern, but also reflects on what could happen to a child who's there under court jurisdiction. And the reason, for context, the reason this came up is because last year when Karen and I did our inspection report, we had two young women or girls, older girls, young women, who said that they were fearful for their lives. And the response to the facility, when we followed up on that, was to call county council and have county council bar the commission from future conversation with youth who were not there under placement. These same girls also shared that they felt vulnerable sexually to a staff member who was on assignment there. And so I'm asking the powers that be to correct this wrong, and more specifically to this report. I think it would bear us saying that we disagree with the policy and that we think that our job includes interviewing any youth who's in that facility.
I think under the prevention, we should have access to any youth where courts are referring county youth for treatment, that we're able to access the environment in its totality, including those who are the peers of the youth that they'll be exposed to there.
And we do have children who are on probation who are there, and they might not be placed by the court because it seems like this facility is mainly utilized by the school districts. But that doesn't mean that these are not justice impact, you know, in the justice of the kids that are in the system. And that could very well be placed if circumstances change. So are you?
Your objection is,
No,
your objection is noted.
So I propose an edit that makes explicit mention of our distaste for the current policy.
Well, can I add something?
Proposal is also noted. I'll just say that while I agree that always if we have the opportunity to have a conversation with youth at any facility, then our inspection's going to be better, right? Like, we're going to learn more. We did thoroughly discuss this, not just with our own counsel, but counsel for Children and Family Services, which actually runs the facility. And you know, the primary reason that we're not allowed to interview or see the records of youth that are not placed there by the court is for privacy reasons, right? Like, we have jurisdiction over the care of youth that go through the court system. And so for those privacy reasons, the facility doesn't want us to be able to meet, interview, or see the records of youth that are not under our jurisdiction. So that was the response. That's where we landed. We weren't able to win that argument, but I hear you.
So you're saying, so are you saying it's not worth arguing? I mean, I just feel like, for historical record, I don't feel like we can even evaluate the facility to the level that's what I consider my responsibility without having access to you.
So we did note in the report that we couldn't interview youth, right? And so, you know, we can make our judgments on the facility based on the information that we have, and on the past very good track record overall, right? Over many years of Canyon Oaks, which is still run by the same, you know, directors, administrators, many of the same staff. You know, I feel like we came to a reasonable conclusion about the conditions there. But I hear you, like, yes, of course, we would like to interview youth if we can, But I also understand like the need to respect the privacy of families and youth that are there that, weren't placed there by the court.
Could we maybe make a statement that this is the first year in 20 that we haven't been allowed to interview youth? Because we had for 19 years.
Maybe we could say that it's the first year that we haven't been able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would use the word able instead of allowed.
Okay, thank you.
Because it wasn't that the staff just denied us, it was that,
Okay.
according to privacy laws, we
And
can't.
of course, we respect that, but we did have a longstanding precedent of talking with kids, and
Yeah.
kid safety is our utmost priority.
Yeah, I just think it really sucks that the result of finding out that there was youth who were scared was should be shut down. That's like,
I think it's,
yeah.
I think it's disputed whether or not there's a direct connection there.
Is there a separate commission or agency or anyone that is reaching out to these groups that are basically being accountable to the youth that aren't placed at Kenya Oaks, like not by the courts?
No, there's no citizen oversight.
Then I think that that's a good point that could be made, that because there is.
You're talking about
She's asking, is there another body like the JJDPC that
for
inspects
children and
it?
family services.
Right.
County does have a child abuse prevention council, but I don't believe that it's in their remit to inspect facilities, but
They really don't do much, any.
editorial comments.
They share information, but
Yeah.
they don't take on
primarily share information.
projects.
It's not really an oversight body. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a question. So do these youth that are referred, on the flip side of that same coin, do the parents or the other peers have knowledge that they are being referred from the court? Is there some distinguishing factor that exposes the youth on the other side that their privacy of being incarcerated is probably shared with the rest of the community?
I didn't ask that specific question, Paul, but I'm pretty confident that the way that they run the facility, they don't make any distinction amongst the residents as to how they came to Canyon Oaks, right? Like everybody comes in and is treated well by the therapist there. They have the same, everyone goes through the same kind of program. As a CASA volunteer in the past, I was actually a mentor to a young man who was at Canyon Oaks, and was placed there by the court. It's just that whether it's a school district, children and family services, or probation, all have access to use Canyon Oaks as a possible place for young people to go if they need it. Right. And if they need that kind of treatment. So all three can use it. All three have used it in the past. It just happens that in the last 12 months, you kids that are dependents or wards of the court, and who are placed there by the court, there haven't been any. That's just a coincidence, I think.
Was there any follow-up to the report of these two young women?
There was. There was an investigation of what happened, and there was also more training for the staff. That was noted in our report, that there was more specific training conducted for the staff. That was a response to the complaints that were made.
And attached to that was also, you can no longer interview youth that are attending.
Well, I think because of, I wasn't there. Commissioner Wilson was, right? But it was a result of that there were questions raised as to who should the commission be interviewing. And then in parsing the legal questions, it was determined we can only interview youth that are placed there by the court through juvenile court law. Right. So
Becca,
not youth placed there by the
Becca and Karen.
Oh, a couple hands up.
Just a minute, Becca. Commissioner Huber Levy. Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, so I participated in the inspection last year, and I would caution us, the difference between causation and, oh, excuse me. That's when your daughters who live in other states check in with you. But yeah, so I think there was a concern about speaking to severely, in some cases, mentally disturbed youth and the way one speaks to them. I think there was that concern. I think that there was due consideration given to the issues that we raised, and there was sufficient training done after the fact. I agree that it is better for us to have access to youth. I think we can ask the question of, who else is following up with youth. I think one of the answers to that question is that the BHRS Office of Family and Consumer Affairs visits twice a year to do surveys with the youth and the families, and any issue that's raised in the survey, any dissatisfaction is considered a grievance and they follow up with it. So there is a process for youth and their families to raise issues. Honestly, my feeling was that it was not so much that they wanted to crush our ability to raise legitimate issues as there was the professional desire to ensure that the youth there were being spoken to in a therapeutically appropriate manner. And, ideally, perhaps we could have come to some compromise where we could have asked questions in a therapeutically appropriate manner. But I think they did, in fact, consult with counsel, who rightly pointed out that our jurisdiction is over wards of the court and youth that are placed there by the court, which is what our jurisdiction is. So I personally respect that delineation. And I think if we want to take this further, we should talk to BHRS and understand from them whether they have any further concerns that there's any gaps in the services and potential for youth to be at risk. But I think in terms of what our mandate is as a commission, it's defined, and we're doing what we should within the scope of our mandate.
Okay, so I'm going to propose that we table this one until next month. If there aren't any other edits or comments from commissioners on any other part of the report, what I'll do is work with the inspection team to follow up on the questions about fire safety that Commissioner Rasmussen raised, and also to note that this is the first time in many years that we've not been able to speak with youth. But otherwise, with those changes, I'll bring the report back for us to vote on next month. Okay. Yeah. And okay. And then before we wrap this up, we'll call for public comment if there is any. And I see Ms. Keeler, your hand's already up. So go ahead.
Thank you. You kind of maybe made me feel better about this, hearing all of the comments. But the one comment I was just going to make, is it possible as a way to be able to get around the confidentiality issue is that you put forth the possibility of asking the parents of the children for permission to speak to some of the children, and just as a possible solution, as a way to get in the door.
Thank you for that suggestion. Something that we could look into. I can't remember whether or not that was proposed last year in all the discussion. Do you remember?
Don't recall that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Keeler. Any other public comment?
I do have a quick question on that same note, because I definitely understand the argument that Karen made, interviewing a youth that has severe mental health problems that we could definitely exacerbate upon questioning. But my question is, I understand that parameter. Does was there an actual description or explanation of the jurisdiction of prevention when doing our jobs? Because in prevention, we want to kind of hinder contact with the juvenile criminal justice system. And if we can't access that population to prevent, then it kind of limits our jurisdiction upon the youth that we should have access to, or facilities where our youth are being referred to or receiving treatment at.
It's a good question, Paul, and it's something that I could follow up with counsel on as well as the idea of asking parents for permission. The Welfare and Institutions Code does explicitly give the Juvenile Justice Commission the power to inspect facilities, and the Delinquency Prevention Commission is created separately, right? But maybe, yeah.
The other thing about it, the code says that if we find an unsafe environment for children, it doesn't say unsafe environment for children who are there by order of the court.
Yeah.
We're supposed to act on behalf of said child or the children.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's hard sometimes to learn that if we don't have a chance to talk to them, maybe, but again, based on what we were able to, what information the council advised us that we can access, we do think it's a well-run facility. Yeah. Okay.
To the team who put that report together.
All right, let's keep moving along on our agenda. We are moving on to section 6 of the agenda, business updates and announcements. So things coming up and some updates on current projects. So 6A regards nominations for 2024 JJDPC officers. Each year around this time, we start the process of figuring out who is going to be chair and vice, and who are the vice chairs for the next calendar year. And the first step in that process is to form a nominating committee, which I will make the effort to gather in the next month. And that nominating committee will come back next month with nominations for the various officers, and then in November we vote on who will be the chair and vice chair for the next calendar year. So the one announcement that I'll make personally is that I am not planning on running for chair again. 2 years is a good amount of time to be chair, and I think it's time to turn that over to new leadership. So being a little more neutral going into the selection of officers, I will participate in the nominating committee, and any other commissioners who don't plan on putting their name forward to be an officer, you can reach out to me starting tomorrow if you want to participate in that committee, and then we'll kind of get the process organized.
How many people are going to be a part of that nominating committee?
We can have, well, we have 12 commissioners now, so we can have up to 6 on that committee if we want. Yeah.
Running on that.
Okay. All right, noted. Yeah, Commissioner Bocanegra. Any other questions about the process for picking our officers for 2024?
It looks like our October meeting is going to be packed. We may want to talk about splitting up those inspection reports, pushing some over to November.
Might be a little busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But maybe we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Figure that out. Maybe we'll table anything else.
Okay.
But that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're going to come up with a slate of nominees in October and then vote on them in November.
Yeah. Well, in the past, we also have had taken some time for nominees to be able to speak a little at a meeting. But again, that process isn't written in stone. We'll figure out the best way to manage the time. Okay. Commissioner Singh is up next to give an update on the transition project, but she's been unable to join us. So should we
I will.
wait on that, or Commissioner Wilson, you
Yeah,
want to give an update?
a brief update. We were able to view the 35 case files. It was illuminating. We had a good time with Monet Wade. The case files are not reflecting the current code. And so he knows that, and they're in the process of redesigning the forms anyway. And so hopefully the newly redesigned forms will be reflect those changes. And so we will probably, this project will continue on, and maybe we'll get to look at case files again 6 months from now to see how that's gone. And we're meeting with BHRS tomorrow.
And to clarify, to the best of our knowledge, we are not sure what the transition plan, how probation records the transition plan as we perceive it. So we'll definitely follow up with that. But we aren't ready to say that probation's out of code or someone's out of code. It's merely our speculation that we want to look into this a bit further. And we want to make sure that everything's in compliance and that we are able to understand at least how the transition process works out.
Right.
Thank you, Wesley.
Still researching.
Yes.
Any questions or comments from the members of the public on youth transition back to the community after detention? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to an update on I called it the Educational Progress Project, but I maybe couldn't quite remember the name, what the exact name was. This is the measurement of educational attainment for youth in the hall, right?
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Wilson.
Sure.
Maybe you want to move to get out of the sun there, Commissioner Wilson. You all right?
Yeah, I can my spotlight.
It looks painful.
Okay. All right. We have crunched all the data, and now we're trying to figure out what it means.
So could you explain just a little more for everyone what data you're talking about?
So we looked at a total of, I think it's close to 6 years. I'm not sure if it's 6 years or 5 years and 3/4 or something, but we have 6 years of data, 1,600 individual youth or data points. You're asking me questions I can't remember. We have 75 youth who have taken one or more MAP tests, which is the assessment test. The data itself is problematic because the testing was not as consistent as one would like. So it's spotty. And then you also have students who have strong engagement sometimes and poor engagement other times. So you have, you have some results that are not plausible in terms of actual academic progress. Like people don't usually drop 7 grades in 90 days. So then we've been trying to be thoughtful about how to improve the data, and we've come to a point where we've improved the data, but now we're down to 13 students instead of 79 students. Mm-hmm. And so what can you conclude about 13 students? Right. So that's where things are at. Is that Maya?
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
So, I mean, I think the biggest thing we've learned is that maybe testing wasn't happening as consistently as it needed to in order to have a conclusive outcome and know whether students are learning. So we don't know still.
The summers thing was interesting because like they've only recorded 1 summer testing in the last 5 years, and they've been really spotty about ensuring that happens. So
I think another thing we have also learned from it is there are students whose lives are written into these tests. So you see a student who's been tested over a course of 4 or 5 years, starting in 8th grade, all the way until 12th grade.
And starting in like Gateway and ending up in Hillcrest.
Or Canyon Oaks, back and forth. So it actually has given some sense. I've learned something about who these students are. And one of the comments in the educational inspection is that we have to be aware that we have different student populations and that sometimes the school seems run more for students who are there for short periods of time, but we have some students who are, their whole high school education is taking place within Hillcrest, and we have to have a program that supports them.
It's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's all I have to say.
But it feels to me like achievement, one achievement is just getting some of this data, right? Like going through the process and getting the data. And then it may be difficult to work with and draw conclusions from, but.
And I want to say, I don't know if the school's still on, but you know, they warned me against the idea of doing the project because they knew the data was bad, but I appreciate that they humored me, gave me the data anyway so that I could conclude that the data was bad, you know? Like,
and see if you can glean any other insights from it, right?
Do they have any plans to improve their data capture?
Yes.
Good.
Not clear what those are yet, but yes.
Okay, any questions for Commissioner Wilson about this project on education? That is it just Hillcrest students or is it?
We have actually have the data for Canyon Oaks, Gateway, Camp and Hillcrest.
Also Glenwood.
And Camp Glenwood.
Did you go back far enough, right?
But so it's available, but it's actually been an overwhelmingly daunting task to sort through this many years. So we have not.
Okay.
Nor do I have any casual observations.
I guess I do have a question for Melissa. That's what's next. Right.
Great question. So we're still figuring that out. We're having conversations about what we're doing. I mean, we'll certainly, there will be a report that basically reflects some elements of what I just said. We're trying to get clarity around what the testing protocol will be going forward. We've identified that there could be better communication around outcomes by looking at other court schools, how they're using data. And so I would imagine that the school is going to be presenting in January about the school is running a pilot right now, collecting data, and it's going to come and present to the commission in January about the results of the first 3 months of data collection. So I think it's a dialogue, and I'm excited that the dialogue has begun.
Great. So just question for you on both of those projects. It sounds like with inspections wrapping up and kind of more research to be done on both the transition project and the education project, that they'll probably bleed over into 2024, yes?
The education, the testing project, we're going to have a definitive document. And for the transition project, we're going to have this is what we've learned so far document.
Before the end of the year.
That's what we hope.
Okay.
Don't hold me to.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll try to get them on the agenda. Yeah. Okay, good. Good. Moving on to 6D and E, and I'm going to flip those two for 1 second. We're just a quick update for the public that the JJDPC did hold its annual offsite and retreat this past Saturday in San Mateo, and we also welcomed our prospective new commissioners who we voted on tonight. So all 15 of us were there. Were all 15? There was no one absent.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
everybody was
Yes,
there.
all 15 of us were there, and had an excellent day. Spent much more time kind of getting to know each other, as well as talking about roles and responsibilities and the purpose of the commission. There was some orientation for relatively new and prospective commissioners, as well as a good brainstorm on priorities and vision for 2024. And more of that, more of what we talked about, we'll digest and kind of work our way into a 2024 plan. But just, I actually wrote up a short summary. This happened just on Saturday, so I couldn't include it in the agenda packet. But hopefully for October, we'll include a short summary of some of the things that we discussed at the offsite. And like I said, I think some of those ideas will work their way into our 2024 plan. So we had an offsite. That's the update. Any questions about that?
It's just, I do have a very quick question.
Or comments, right?
For comment, yeah. I was going to phrase it as a question just for you, Monroe. But I guess the main thing I took away from the retreat is we all want to improve the juvenile justice system to work better for our young people. I think that we can all agree that learning loss is something that should be minimized, that whatever trauma that the young people go through should be minimized and should be understood. And I think that when we come to this as a community and as we address these issues, we should come to it in good faith and we should come to it in a collaborative manner. And so I just wanted to make sure that we actually reach out to all our stakeholders and all our partners to make sure that we get their feedback before we jump into projects, but also to reiterate the spirit of the commission, and that's to work with people, not to work against, and most importantly, to work for our young people.
Well said, Commissioner Liu.
You're here.
Okay, the last item on our agenda before we join our joint meeting of the commissions is just to decide on a meeting date for our next meeting, because our next meeting falls on Halloween. And some of us, what's that? Some of us may have, commitments to trick or treat or other things that we need to do on that night. So it doesn't seem like generally a good night for the public to come spend the sunset hours when they could be out trick or treating. So so instead of holding our meeting on the last Tuesday of October, which is Halloween, we were gonna have some discussion about when our next meeting date would be. Commissioner Swope.
I move that we meet on the 24th.
Oh, a week ahead of time.
Yes.
I'm concerned there's a lot we gotta prepare inspection wise for that meeting, and I don't know if that gives us enough time.
A lot to get done between now and then.
What if we do the first week of November?
What about making it?
Would anyone be opposed to Monday, the 30th, the night before?
I could do the 30th.
Mischief night?
What's that called?
Devil's Night. It's Devil's Night.
That's only in
Back on
Kansas.
the East Coast. Mischief night. Mischief night was the night.
What happened?
Maybe in Philadelphia. Grief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
Anyone else object to the 30th? Okay, let's, we don't have to vote on this because we can discuss amongst ourselves, commissioners, but, and we don't need to officially, notify until later in the month. But for anyone that's interested, do I see nods for the 30th? Could that work?
Yes, the 30th seems good.
Yeah, okay, so likely the 30th, but to be determined.
Sorry, Monroe, Jehan was not.
How are you gonna determine it if we don't figure it out tonight?
We'll send in.
We can determine offline. Yeah. Is probation saying the 30th is hard to get to?
They said they could submit their report.
Oh, potentially, okay. Ms. Keeler, did you want to make a comment on that question?
This is a lockdown barricade drill. Immediately go to a secure location.
Oh, geez.
All doors, close window blinds, silence phones, and turn off
Only a
lights.
test.
Take care, you guys.
This is a lockdown barricade drill. Immediately go to a secure location. Lock and barricade all doors, close window blinds, silence phones, and turn off lights.
What has happened to
The
the
drill.
Yeah,
It did say drill.
Yeah, barricade drill. Immediately go to a secure location. Lock and barricade all doors. Window.
We don't
blinds,
the
silent
college
phones,
of
and
San,
turn off lights.
I've been a College of San Mateo student.
This is a lockdown barricade drill. Immediately go to a
It did just say drill.
lock and barricade all doors.
We don't have to go
Window
anywhere.
blinds, silent phones, and turn off lights. This is a lockdown barricade drill. Immediately go to a secure location. Lock and barricade all doors. Window blinds.
Where to go?
Everything for students.
No, we're supposed to lock ourselves in our classroom and prepare to fight.
Prepared to fight.
Yeah.
In a sad state of the world.
That's,
We're good at that.
Hide.
Violent, right?
Where were
We're promoting that.
Run, and then
It's
Are
run,
we
hide,
gonna
and
be
then fight.
charged?
Okay.
Fight's the last one. You do other stuff.
okay, that's a first for
Yeah.
our Commissioner King.
it was a class for future.
Thank you for
police
closing the
officers.
door, Commissioner Ashton.
You're welcome.
We do have all the blinds closed. That they did explicitly say that was a drill, everybody.
Yes.
Okay, all right. We're about to wrap up anyway. In fact, I think that was the last item.
Yes.
Ms. Keeler, did you want to say something? You had your hand up.
I did. I just had a quick question. I can't see to the end of the table. I'm not sure who's still here. But I've been wondering when we did the tour of the YSC, and I can't remember the name, there's a wonderful room that's for a decompression type room that was close to being finished several months ago. And I was just wondering if we have an update on that room?
Yes, we're actually planning having an opening ribbon cutting sometime at the beginning of November. So
I'm sorry, the beginning of
November.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so they
Congratulations.
can't finish the hallway, they have to put a clear coat and to seal it. And so very excited. It's been a long time.
Congratulations. Yay.
Wonderful. All right, I think that's a good note to end on. On that note, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you. And commissioners, stick around. We have a couple of other items to discuss.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Good night.